everyone, and welcome to Community Connections. It's been a while actually since I've been on, but today I'd like to address a very important issue that is going to be on the referendum. It will be on the ballot on Tuesday, November 4th. It is a referendum question. It's question 5, and that is whether or not Woburn should implement the Community Preservation Act. And with me today, two people that are on the campaign committee, Emily Block and Carol Young-Claus, and they really are here to explain to me, and I'm sure to many of you, what this Preservation Act is. I plead ignorance. You know, I really didn't know what it was. I've heard the buzzwords around town, or I've heard other people talking about it. But I think I'd first like to start off, if I could. How did your committee come about? Is it just a bunch of volunteers that are promoting this for Woburn? Is that how it came about?
Basically, yes. People who had heard about it and got together and tried to do something to push it forward.
Because you've heard about the success or the pros and cons from other communities, I would assume?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yep.
Why don't we start off, if we could, what is the Community Preservation Act? It is question 5 on the ballot. And just before we go any further, because I don't want to...
Please.
Yeah, before we go, we all got our red book in the mail. That question 5 is for Woburn only. It is not in the book.
Correct.
We will put up what the question and how it will be worded. I think it might be up now as we talk, so that you'll understand when you go to the polls how it is worded and you understand what it's about, because it is quite lengthy. It came obviously from the clerk's office, city clerk's office, and we'd like to walk through it, the mechanics of it, so that people do understand it more. And whether you're for or against it, maybe you'll have just more information to make your judgment call, I think. But the other piece of it too is we are not the only community that has this on the ballot November 4th. There are 8 other communities that are voting on this, plus 2 that are going to go from the 1% surcharge and bump it up for a vote on, is it 3%?
I don't know.
Whatever
they're
their
bumping
bump
up
is
the
going to be,
surcharge.
because they have gotten money,
Right.
and now would like to get more money.
Yes.
Right.
For whatever reason. And I know that people hear the word, first of all, tax or surcharge, whatever you label it, and that really is what has scared off many people. They don't want anything to do with taxes or raise or whatever. But we're going to walk through it, and then everybody can make their own decision based on, you know, solid information. Sound like a game plan?
It
Including
does.
myself, as I
It
said.
does.
I don't know a lot about it. I will have to wear my glasses at some point so that we can go through it. But why don't we start off with what is the Community Preservation Act, or CPA?
You're on.
Okay. I think the best way to describe it is that there is a CPA fund that is state administered.
So this is a state-administered funds.
It's a
not federal.
dedicated fund, state, and every community in the state has to pay into it, does pay into it now. Woburn is paying into it now. Anytime there's a property deed or a lien, there's a fee attached to it, and that fee goes into this fund.
That fee is something like a $20 fee?
$20 for property deed and 10 on liens.
So anybody who does any type of real estate transaction?
Any kind, yep.
You have to pay a fee, and that money from our town, our city, or from anybody else's city and town in the Commonwealth goes into this fund.
Exactly.
And from that is where the money comes from
Yep.
to disperse
So
to other communities?
every community that has passed this pays in and then gets money back. The communities that have not passed it, like Woburn, pays in and gets nothing back.
So technically, you're paying some monies
Yes.
to do that. So well, that's kind of crazy, isn't it, huh?
And that's why we want people to vote yes, so that we can be paying in and getting back, because you get back not only what you've paid in, but you get state matched funds.
Okay, we'll walk through that as
Yeah.
we go along. The establishment is dedicated to 4 areas, the CPA. Why don't you explain what that is? I know affordable housing is one. It's not, people think it's just historic preservation, which is one of the main
It is
key
one
areas.
component,
It is.
but it's not the only one.
No, it is not. It has affordable housing. It has recreational area.
Mhm.
And what is the other one?
Open space.
Open space.
And historic preservation.
So those are the 4 key areas that most communities.
The 4 only areas.
Oh, okay, 4 only areas
Yeah.
that communities will benefit or can use the funds for.
Must use the funds
Must
for.
for, yes, because the monies do not go into, it goes into a general fund. They do not go into operational costs for a town, so they cannot use, it's dedicated money, is that correct?
It's dedicated money. It does not go into the general fund that can be administered without going through the city council and in a very transparent process.
Right, right. The piece that I think people don't understand is how they are taxed on this and how much it would cost the average resident and business owner. Am I
Well,
correct?
yes, I can tell you. Basically, if you think about if you have a $300,000 home,
I'm a resident.
sorry, $400,000
It's,
home.
it's valued, it's
If it's
assessed.
valued at $400,000.
Not sell price, but the tax-based.
The tax-based price,
Okay.
$400,000.
Right.
You will pay about $30 a year
For the CPA
for the
surcharge.
CPA. Yep.
Okay.
And if you have a $200,000 house, I think you'll pay about $10.
Right. It's
If it's
very,
assessed
very,
for
Yeah.
that.
and there are plenty of exemptions for people who, even $30 is a little much for them. Well, those people would probably be exempt.
Okay. I want to, how about businesses though? How does it affect someone who has, you know, a multi-million-dollar business in town or owns a lot of property? How does that work for them?
They will be paying a greater share.
They will.
Yeah.
But the first $100,000 will
Yeah.
be exempt.
And that
So
is for
small-
both residents.
Even for businesses.
Right,
The
so
first
100,000 is exempt.
Right.
So for small business owners, of which there are many in Woburn, they would not be adversely affected. They're bound to be benefits.
Okay.
Yep.
And how about exemptions? There are exemptions who gets this surcharge on their tax bill. And why don't you walk us through, you know, whether it's, I know, certain incomes or age, correct, seniors?
It's both, yeah. So there's not exemptions on property. There are exemptions on, I should restate that. As Carol said, the first 100,000 of any property is
exempt.
cut off
Even
right
if you own a $1
there.
million
Yeah.
residence, your first $100,000 is exempt.
Okay.
Yeah. But the other exemptions are for income. So if you're a moderate income senior, you are exempt, and I think it's, I'm sorry, I don't have the exact
I don't have
figures,
the
but
figures, but it's-
65,000,
I think it's
Around
like
the
60,
state
I think it's
guidelines,
between
yeah.
60 and 65, whatever the state
something like that
guidelines,
for a
right.
single. And then for non-seniors, it's low income. So I believe it was like 50,000 for a single,
Right.
something like
But
that.
if it's a low-income family being in that, you know, multiple, it's a family of 4, and they're $60,000 or $54,000 a year, or even $90,000, I
Yep.
think, it goes into that, you are exempt.
Exactly.
You are exempt. So that's
That's
what
right.
people don't understand, I
Yep.
think. I didn't understand that either. I mean,
No, these
No.
things are very confusing.
It is.
I
it
think,
is.
yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I think that's the biggest thing that people are hung up on is, you know, obviously paying a more in a tax and not realizing what they're getting from it. Can you explain to me, you did briefly, but you explained that every city and town pays, you know, a fee for deeds and transactions and that sort that goes into this fund. How much money does that correlate, if it should pass in Woburn? How does that correlate? It's 1%? Can you walk me through what we would be taxed? It's 1%?
What the referendum question, the referendum question is asking for a 1%
1%.
surcharge.
The max they can go is 3%.
The max is 3, and as you mentioned in your introduction, some communities who passed it on a low level have seen the benefits and they want to increase it because the more they can collect from the surcharges, the more the state gives them.
Okay.
So it's met, the money that you put in. So for example, if Woburn collects an estimated $700,000 from
On the 1%.
on the 1%, it will be returned $950,000 the first year.
The first year.
Yep.
And so this tax would take place in 2015,
Correct.
correct? And the funds back to Woburn would be in 2016. after they physically collect
Yes.
the funds.
That's right,
Is
yeah.
that how it works?
The other thing I wanted to be sure people understand is that this is not a tax on your property values, it's a tax on the tax you pay. It's a surtax on the tax you pay. So they're not, the 1% of the value of their home is a significantly higher number than the tax
Than
that
what
this-
they're
yes.
taxed at?
Yeah, so they're paying the lower one, which is the surtax on what they're paying in property taxes.
Right. Now, if it should pass, how is this money dispersed, and who disperses the funds for Woburn?
Well, once again, it's a very transparent process. Anyone can put forward a proposal. That proposal is then sent to a committee, a CPA committee, which is made up of people from the Planning
Oh, it's
Commission,
constant, I know that, that's
Historical
9 people
Commission.
have to be on that.
Correct.
People, yes.
And they have to represent the Conservation Committee?
Yes.
The
Right.
Planning Board, Housing,
Yep,
Parks and Recreation?
yes.
Historic Commission, which some
Right.
people get confused. The Historic Commission in Woburn happens to be a regulatory board that handles the demolition delays
Right.
in Woburn. And then 4 members at large.
Correct.
That can be assigned.
So proposals are submitted to this committee.
And they must
And-
fall under the guidelines of open space and recreation, historic preservation, community housing,
And recreation.
And recreation.
Yeah,
Those,
only
that's
those
all,
4
that's the only
categories.
4
Only
categories.
those 4 categories,
Right.
nothing else.
Right.
Right.
And the funds are absolutely dedicated only to those. So the proposals go before the committee decides which ones they would like to put forward. They bring it to the city council. The city council has the ultimate say
Okay.
in what goes forward. So obviously they are representatives of the city as a whole and not individual groups.
Right.
So that helps with the
And the
transparency.
decision is made in a public meeting
Yes,
so that you can be there and you can hear who is having what opinion on it. And you can also, in many meetings, they'll open it to the public and you may even be able to have a voice in it.
Got it. Now, just to talk about what some of these funds, other communities have done with these funds. I thought it was quite interesting because in my mind, you know, people will think, oh, it's just to preserve, you know, a cemetery or whatever. And it's not that at all. When I looked at Hingham, which I thought was really fascinating, is they use their funds for veterans affordable housing. You know, they took a home, they restored it, and gave it to veterans who either are homeless or maybe a veteran who doesn't have that kind of income, or whatever it is, but it was affordable housing.
Yeah,
Yep.
amazing.
I was surprised by that. And then Acton, because I know, just so people know, there are 144 cities and towns.
155.
155 cities and towns out of Massachusetts that are CPA.
And are already having the benefits of all that money. And
That Woburn is paying into,
Yep.
and
Yep.
every other
Yep.
towns like Stoneham or whatever.
Yep.
But to go back to that, Acton used it for, you know, different purposes also. They used it for Parks and Recreation to restore a bike trail. But they also used it to put a chairlift in their municipal buildings because they didn't have a wheelchair lift.
right.
Or they used it to restore a clock. Apparently, they must have some old clock in town, and they
Yep.
use the funds to repair
And
that.
different communities have restored town halls or hiking trails.
Yeah, or replaced, I know one
yeah.
that has an old library. They replaced the stained glass windows.
Yeah.
They did that. So there are many uses. It's not just, as you say, for just strictly historic preservation. It is to have open space.
Yeah. And in
Um,
fact, let me clarify, it cannot just be for historic preservation. Those
Right.
4 categories
Have to be.
have to be addressed.
Do they give a certain percentage to each category? Is that how it works?
10%.
10%.
Yeah, to 3 categories.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the leftover percentages can be at the discretion of the committee, can be allocated to any one of those 4.
So
Or
each,
they can also
Or
be.
they can roll it over.
Yeah, they can be held in reserve.
Yes, you don't have to spend it.
don't have to spend
the
it
year
all.
that you get it.
Nope.
You can roll it over and
Right.
accumulate for
Yeah.
maybe a bigger project.
Right.
Yeah, like in Woburn, if they know the big project is coming up, they can say, all right, we're going to put our 10% in each of these
Into
categories.
these 4 categories.
And we're going to wait until this big building project happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll put it aside, and then we'll have it.
And then the
For
money
us.
will be there.
And more money, because
Right.
the following year we get it again.
Interesting. I just don't, I just didn't understand it myself, how
It's
it worked.
confusing,
It
I
is
think.
confusing.
It is confusing.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I mean,
It's really well thought out, though.
yeah,
Well,
It's
you have
really- they've
155
dotted all
cities
the
and
i's and
towns.
crossed all the t's.
yeah.
Right, right, right. It's just a matter that, you know, people have to get out there and be educated about
Yeah.
it, like
Right.
myself. I really
Yeah.
didn't know until I knew that we would, I thought it was an important enough issue that we should bring it forward for people, because I know I never got anything in the mail specifically about this.
Partly because we have no money. So we're running on,
Yeah, we are grassroots.
we are
We're so far
grassroots.
below the soil level.
Yeah, it is grassroots.
I mean,
It
a
is.
lot of this, I'm printing
Right.
this myself on my home printer, you know?
Right,
That's
right,
how
right.
small our budget is.
But
Yeah.
where it is a referendum question
Mm-hmm.
on our ballot, it's very important. And as just to reiterate, it is on Woburn's ballot, question 5.
Question 5.
And I would hope that people, you know, would look at it. I know that, I don't know if they've put up the slide on the referendum question as it appears, but it really is very specific. And it's kind of encumbersome and to read it. There we go. I think it is up there for everybody to look. I have to put my glasses on so I can read it. It is very clearly states, establishes a dedicated funding source to acquire, create, and preserve open space, including lands for parks, recreational uses, and conservation land. Acquire, preserve, rehabilitate, and restore historic resources, including buildings, historic buildings. Acquire, create, preserve, rehabilitate, and restore land for recreational use. So it goes on. So I would like people to read it and take their time when they go in and make, you know, a real conscious effort that, you know, for $20 to $30 in your tax bill, Woburn will get back, you know, almost, you know, double.
25% more the
Yeah,
first year.
Yeah, the first year is 25%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 25% we didn't have.
And that's
And the money rolls
that we've
over.
already paid.
Right.
Everybody, I mean, we are funding our the communities
That are
all
on, that
around
are
us.
already signed up
Somerville
to it.
is going wild with
Yeah.
theirs.
They're doing the,
Fall River just passed it.
and New Bedford did too,
New
I know.
Bedford,
But around us, we
Lexington.
have Lexington.
Waltham, Wellesley.
We do.
Yeah.
We're being surrounded.
Bedford.
If you see a map of the communities that have started this,
Right.
it's coming from the west and from the south. They're the communities that really got on board very quickly.
I noticed down by the Cape, you know, down
Oh.
in that
Cape
area.
is saturated with it.
Yep.
Because, not only that, but I noticed that Provincetown did not have affordable housing.
And now they do.
That's exactly what they
Yeah.
use their money for.
I also would like to touch on affordable housing to say that there's a difference between affordable housing and low-income housing. And the affordable housing we're talking about here are things for, like the veterans you mentioned earlier, or seniors, or just people who are a little less affluent. And by law, every city and town has to have a certain percentage of affordable housing. This bill will help us meet that percentage and avoid having what they're called 40B projects. Avoid having those come in from outside and take over our neighborhoods. So,
Right, so it allows some flexibility there
Right.
for housing.
Right.
And as far as open space, I'm not well versed on that either, but I do know that whether it be maybe the Hon Pond area or
Sure.
like we mentioned, so there are some farms left, like Shannon Farm and that whole area, that maybe the city at some point would have the funds to buy it and obviously keep it as an open space, you know, for the
Right.
community,
Right.
for whatever reason.
And develop it into a nice hiking area or children's playgrounds. I mean, it's
Or trail-
really
bike
wide
trails or
trails,
whatever it is.
absolutely.
or just preserve it as
Just
a natural
as a-
environment.
right.
I mean, Horn
Like
Pond
some of
is
the
beautiful.
marshlands,
Yeah.
marshy lands. I know they're not real
Right.
marshlands.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I do think that I have a better understanding of it
Yeah.
myself now, and I hope other people do too,
Yeah.
because I think it's worth, believe me, it's worth looking into and having
Yeah.
you know, a grasp on what they're voting on. Just don't go in, and you really
Yeah,
try to
one
read.
of the things I've found, I've been knocking on a lot of doors,
Mm-hmm.
talking to people about it, and one of the things that I find very remarkable is that so many people haven't even heard of it. And I mean, I guess that's our fault. We're trying to get the word out. It's been very difficult.
But you're not a very big group either.
We're a
in
small
town,
group.
right?
We're doing it on our own time. We have
Right.
zero funds.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
And in fact, if anyone would like to donate, we'd love to have your money or your time. Please get in
Yeah.
touch with us at our website or give us a call. It's on our flyers. Well, actually, I can give you, the website is www.woolburnpreservation.org, and all our contact information is on there. But to go back, when I knock on people's doors and they haven't heard of it, and I tell them something about it, and they say, oh, that sounds like a good idea. How come we don't have it already? And I say, don't know, but now's our chance. We can join the communities that are already a part of it.
What is the downside of what people say? I mean, what is the negatives? I mean, because, you know, I've had people that have said, you know about the community preservation? Oh, wait, don't want that, you know. And then, you know, I don't know enough, I wasn't, you know, educated enough myself, you know, to give an argument or even make a comment.
I think when people hear the word tax, they freak out. And I don't blame them because we
don't
get
either.
taxed for so much.
Right.
The thing about this that's different, that's gotten my buy-in, is that it's so well planned and so well structured and so transparent. And it can't be diverted into anything else. It has to stay within the parameters of what the bill says. And you know, that's very unusual. And I think it's just great.
I think so too. I think it's also the management of the funds. If they say it should pass, the management of the funds and who manages the money. Those are real questions.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, and the average citizen doesn't know. I mean, they don't know the
And when
intricacies
it
of how
goes
it
through the
works.
city council, those are your representatives. They are a phone call away.
Right.
You know, so you the citizen, will have greater access to this whole process than you would with any other project that the city might do.
Wonderful. Well, I think I've covered everything. I mean, I just wanted to make sure that I
I
asked
do
the
have a
right
couple
questions.
other things.
Sure, yeah,
One
absolutely.
is that if the community does not like it, they have an option to repeal it in 5 years.
In 5 years, yes, I
And
did
no
mention that.
community has ever repealed it.
No.
And the other is that there cannot be a tax surcharge increase unless it's voted on.
That's right.
So if you
completely in
vote
the
this
control of
in
the voters.
at
Yeah.
the 1%,
Yep.
nobody can come along
Nope.
and kind of increase it without
This is
people knowing
exactly
about
what
it.
I meant by crossing the T's and
Yep.
dotting the I's.
It's
They
not
thought of
allowed.
that.
It's
Yeah,
not allowed.
It's not allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can't sneak that thing in and
Nope.
They
we're
cannot.
unaware of it.
Nope.
Nope.
So it has to stay, and then if the citizens don't like it or don't like the way it's going, 5 years, repeal it.
That's right.
And you
that's
vote to
never
repeal it,
happened.
Yes.
correct? It goes back on the ballot to repeal it.
Yep.
Because I know, I think it was a few years back, I really don't remember, to be honest, I'm ashamed to say, but apparently it was on the ballot before.
Yeah, I think it was
At
about 10 years ago.
Is that what it was?
I think so.
And it was at 3% when that got shot down. And
Right.
I know that happened in Beverly also.
Yeah.
Beverly put it on at 3%, and the citizens said, no, that's too much money, whatever. We'll try the 1%, and that just went through, I guess.
Right.
Beverly is a new
And
community.
some of the cities and towns are actually voting to increase it
Oh, I
because
saw
they've seen
that.
the
Yeah,
benefit.
two communities
Yep.
that are doing
But
that.
it's by the vote.
Right.
You know, it's not mandated by any government entity. The voters decided to do that.
And I think it's interesting that some of the communities that have gone through this process, they've passed it without a problem. I think that maybe they had some more money to put into the campaigns or something, but a lot of these communities that just said, oh yeah, this sounds like a great idea. It
Right.
sounds like it's all win for us.
Right.
I think Arlington was one, which is, again, a very close community.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Lexington. I think Arlington is, I'm not sure.
No, Arlington went
was it?
through, yeah,
Okay.
and Lexington, and yeah.
Well, you know, Woburn is a wonderful community to begin with.
Oh, sure is.
You know.
But this is the way to
obviously,
make it
I
even
feel
better.
very strongly about that, and I know there are many wonderful people here. So I'm just pleased that, if nothing else, we brought the issue,
Yeah,
you know, out and we talked about it. And if nobody else knows, I know
Yeah.
more about it
And you
than I
can tell
did,
your
as I
friends.
said. But
you can tell one person, and that person can tell two
That's-
persons. And
Well, maybe hopefully they'll get to see it and make their own decision. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah.
people have to, you know, be aware of the issues, and
Right.
this is one. And
which is
whether-
why it's something that is for the voters to decide, and
It
not
is.
something that's just mandated for everybody.
Even this initial part is at the discretion of the voters.
Right.
Everything down the line is at the discretion of the voters.
Well, I thank you very much, ladies, for being here today. And the key thing is to get out and vote, first of all.
Yes.
Yes.
On November 4th, get out and vote. It's a big election, really. Get out and vote, and please take a few minutes to read question 5
Right.
on our referendum.
And
Thank you very
we
much.
would like to say vote yes on question 5.
Yes,
And
she and I would like to say vote
Yes.
yes on question 5.
And also to say that on October 16th at City Hall, there's going to be an informational meeting, and everybody is welcome to come to that.
Thank you. I'm sure it was wonderful just to at least have it out there today.
Yes, thank you so
Emily,
much.
Carol, it was great to meet you for the first time. Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
very
Best
much.
of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks again, and Community Connections will be on, I'm sure, next month. So thank you, and as again, I'm very happy that I've learned about question 5.